Welcome to Cyber Insider. I'm Jim, and as always, with me is Jimmy and Mako.
Hello.
And behind the scenes on the engineer deck and talking to us from the
ether
is Emily.
Hello.
Hello. Today we're going to talk about Security Plus. We'll talk about the first half of topic 1.0 or 1.1, which is threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities. It's one of the things we covered in the book. What do you guys think about this chapter?
A lot of information. There's a lot that was going over in the first chapter. Definition-wise, goes into it a little bit more depth in chapter 2, and kind of expands upon the different avenues of malware.
A lot of vocabulary to go over and memorize.
Yeah, like all these chapters, a ton of vocab. I think Emily's worn out her slide deck over there, index cards. She's building the flashcards for herself.
They're helpful.
They are helpful. So what we want to cover in this one is from CompTIA 1.1 is given a scenario, analyze indicators of compromise and determine the type of malware. So in this Cyber Insider, we'll cover the first half of that, which is defining the main types of malware. And then when we meet again next week, we'll talk about how to detect and get rid of that stuff, which is, pretty important. So if we do the first part right, if we can figure out where they're at, how to not get them in the first place, it'd be easier to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
So, when you guys looked at the totality of this thing, the whole volume of it, what do you think of, the differences between each of the categories?
Some of them kind of seemed like the same type of malware with just like a different twist on it, but they all pretty much did the same thing. I guess for the most part, I guess if you're able to, take care of one, it should be easier to just go down the bit of a rabbit hole to fix the other ones.
Yeah. Overlap. What do you think, Jimmy?
Yeah, there was a little bit of overlap. There was different kind of defining characteristics of each one. You find different parts of each one, whether it's how they're opened, how they're ran, whether or not they can replicate themselves, things like that. All kind of malware,
Malware.
malicious.
Emily, I'm going to ask you too.
Starting off into this career field, of course, all of the simple terms like viruses, trojans, malware, just stuff that you pick up when you install a basic, virus scanner onto your computer. So when you actually start to read about how virus is just a broad term of all of these smaller sections, even malware and trojans are just these broad terms.
Right.
Getting to, just like go into each one and like read about them, that what makes up, it's just so expansive that it's just so interesting. It's so interesting.
I think Mako's right. I think you guys all hit it on the head. There's a lot of overlap when we talk about these things. So what I like to do is I break it down into kind of some different categories. So first, I like to think about delivery technique, right? How does the bad thing get on your computer to start with, right?
I get so paranoid now whenever something is like, the McDonald's app wants to know your location. It's just like,
no.
Yeah.
So you think about that, and then we can take the first three, viruses, trojans, and worms, and we can just slice them off and say, okay, this is how the bad stuff gets onto your computer, right? So we won't think about anything else, because we think about trojans, when we talk about trojans later, it'll be, what's the difference between a trojan and like a remote access tool, or what's the difference between a trojan and something else, ransomware, something like that. And in those cases, there's not a lot of differences, right? But if we look at it as how the bug or the bad thing gets on your computer, then it makes a little bit more sense. So think about viruses. Virus is a software program, obviously. The big thing about a virus is it needs the user interaction. So it needs somebody to click something to make it go.
Yeah, it can't just appear.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything on its own. It's a file.
Like a parasite needs a host to live off of in order to get there.
Yeah. So it requires somebody to do something, and it spreads from one file to another, one computer to another. It can change code. That's what they call polymorphic stuff. It can go from one thing to another, and it can attach itself to other files. That's kind of all the stuff, the main things about it. And the big thing about a virus, as a delivery mechanism, is the key on it needs the user to do something. It needs user interaction, right?
Right.
Talk about a couple of the big ones, and a lot of times when we talk about big viruses, you won't see anything new because it's kind of along that same method. The new stuff is ransomware. The new stuff is, crypto lockers, and the new stuff is bot farms and stuff like that. So one thing we talk about is the virus I Love You.
I know.
Came out in 2000. It was spread by email. The attachment was loveletterforyou.tx, and then it was another .vbs. So they tried to hide that VBS. They wanted you to think there was a text file, and hopefully you wouldn't get to the VBS. Hopefully that would be off the screen. You wouldn't be able to see it.
All right.
Which is a Visual Basic script. So when you opened that, it ran the script on your Windows machine, and then it infected your computer, and then it sent 50 emails to 50 people from your contact list.
Yeah.
And usually started with the top and worked straight down. I think that's how it all worked.
Right.
It's funny, it was written and sent out by these two Filipino guys, Ron L. and Owen L. Caused about $15 billion worth of damage. Terribly destructive. The problem is, in the Philippines, there was no law against it. So
Scot-free.
Yeah. Nothing happened to him.
Yeah.
Famous for it. $15 billion with a B dollars worth of damage, and nothing happened to them.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago. Yeah, today's things are much different. Most places you go are going to have some type of computer laws that are going to get you. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
They're like the forefront to why there are such strict laws on all these cyber attacks and everything nowadays.
Yeah,
because they caused so much damage that was, I guess, in turn not unreplaceable. Like there was no I guess again security for getting it back. Like there was no insurance for it. There was just the damage was done.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's one of the first things I got out of the Army in 2000 and went to work for a commercial brokerage house, and they were dealing with this right away, almost immediately. So it was one of the things I left the Army, went to the corporate world, and this was one of the first things, like dealing with I Love You. I had a guy much later. We were talking about it with one of the guys I work with, and he said, "Yeah, I remember I got the subject was an email that came to you, and the subject was I love you, right?" And he got it from his wife, and he said, "Well, I knew that wasn't right because my wife would never say that." So he didn't open it, but many people opened it, and it just spread like wildfire. Terribly destructive at the time. Next one we're talking about is one called Melissa. It was about a year earlier. Again, spread by email. The email title was important message, and the thing that was attached to it was list.doc, but it was a macro virus. And we'll talk about macros later, but essentially it's a routine you can set up within a Word or within any type of Office document that will do a routine. You can push one set of buttons and it'll do a bunch of stuff, and maybe it'll format a whole header of a letter or something like that. Yeah. So they use that macro to create a virus. Same thing, once it infected a computer, send out emails to 50 more people, try to infect them as well. It was released by a guy named David L. Smith. He was fined $5,000. He's got a 10-year prison sentence, but only served 20 months of that. Did about $80 million worth of damage, which is crazy. When you think about Emily's making. Early days of computing, right? Well, I mean, 2000 was still early.
There could be laws to be broken. There's no laws in place. He's not necessarily doing anything wrong.
I mean, a lot of people thought that 2000 we weren't going to have any technology. So
yeah. Well, most people thought that was the end of the world. Yeah. Well, we'll get into Worms. We'll talk about Morris. He was one of the first people to get federally indicted.
All right.
Yeah, it's funny. Melissa was actually the funny thing about Melissa is a lot of people didn't want to report it because the Melissa they're talking about was a porn star, and the people that were opening the list was a list of supposedly usernames and passwords for porn sites.
Oh.
So when they got infected, a lot of people didn't want to say anything because it's like, so when you read the email, it was like, hey, here's some usernames and passwords to a bunch of porn sites, and once you opened it, you were infected, and then it sent it off to 50 people that did the same thing. So those are some classic viruses. You're not going to see a lot of viruses just by themselves anymore. A lot of times that's the method we get things onto your computer. Like later we'll talk about things like if you think about phishing, like someone sends you an email and wants you to click a link, that's essentially the same delivery mechanism, right? That the virus is sending. It's just you've got to click on something. Yeah. Different technology of infecting you, but it's the same method of delivery, right? We're trying to trick you into clicking something as the bad guy. Worms are different. Worms are far more destructive. What do you think?
Worms. I mean, they're worms.
So I think worms are like really interesting because they don't necessarily like cause a lot of the damage. They're just like the flagship that like brings the virus on there, and it needs a secondary like spark in order to cause right. That's
not
necessarily no.
Okay.
No. What do you think?
I think the most dangerous thing about them is no user interaction.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
They're self-replicating. You know, you don't have to necessarily do anything. They're there, and they exploit open ports in the system. So
and those are the ones that transfer through network, right?
Yeah. Network.
So as long as they have an open network, they can get into multiple other.
But they're not necessarily like the dangerous part, right? It's like what they could cause.
Well, think about it. Think about where each of these three is really a delivery mechanism, right? So the worm's delivery mechanism, it's going to carry a destructive payload, but it doesn't need the user to click anything.
Right.
It needs a vulnerability. Like a lot of times it'll be an open port, or as I think we might talk about SQL Slammer. I'm not sure if we do or not. It needed a vulnerability in Microsoft SQL, and it just, if it found a system with that, it would exploit it on its own, and then that system would become part of the big network of worms, and it would send it out again. So essentially, it does not really attach to another program. It's kind of its own thing. It moves from place to place. It's self-replicating, which, like Jimmy said, that's the dangerous part. They're incredibly fast, because they're self-replicating. The classic one is Robert Morris, right? Robert Morris was, where is he, at Stanford, I think. His dad was there too, so his dad was, and so he was kind of under his dad's shadow all the time. So he thought, the internet was new. This was 1988, it was pretty new still. Yeah, it was kind of the ARPANET, so it was colleges and the military hooked together. And he created a worm, and his worm was designed to highlight security flaws, right? But the problem is, it exploited a security flaw, and almost every computer on the ARPANET was kind of exposed to that. Right. So it propagated, it replicated itself so much that no one could get on the network. The network was full of his worm. Yeah. You couldn't log on. It was just, like Emily was saying, it used the network, and it would hit a machine, even if the machine was already infected, it still had that vulnerability. It would respawn itself and just keep sending itself out. So he was actually the first person that was convicted under the 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. So the first felony on which we this was 88. That was 12 years before. The I love you, but still, you're in a different country. That law doesn't apply to you.
Was that like a college that they did it too? Or
yeah, he did it at a college, but that's because it was on ARPANET. And ARPANET back then, that was the internet, was just connecting colleges and military, government.
Quite the place to use as a petri dish.
Yeah, well, everybody thought it was going to be this friendly place. Everybody's going to trust everybody, and it was going to be this kumbaya place. No. So they were really hard to determine the amount of damage. So the numbers I've seen is somewhere between 100,000 and 10 million, which is pretty widespread. Yeah, that's terribly widespread. So that's another one. So we go viruses. The user needs to click something. Usually we're trying to trick them with some kind of, in current days it's like phishing, back then it was like, here's an email, here's a, open this because I send you a love letter, or open this because it's a list of usernames and passwords.
Right.
Trojans are kind of like a virus in that way. They need user interaction. Their big thing is they're a little, I guess, nicer than a virus. They have two programs kind of hooked together. They have an overt program, like something you're getting, and then they have a covert program and something you don't know you're getting, the actual
scenes,
the malicious code behind the scenes. So I remember when these were first, I shouldn't say first coming out. Early ones I remember are like Elf Bowling. It came out at Christmas time.
Oh yeah.
You download the Elf Bowling, you could do the Elf Bowling. It ran just fine, but in the background there was malicious code. Something else could be running there. And that's why I think these are delivery methods, because you could run like different Trojans like Sub7 or Back Orifice, we'll talk about later.
Right.
You could, take that same Trojan, Elf Bowling, and put either of those on there and send it off, right? So you have the overt program, Elf Bowling, and then you have a covert program, Sub7. And again, by itself, Sub7 is not a malicious program. Just that when it's used maliciously, then it becomes a Trojan, right?
Right.
Does that make sense, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Right.
That was what I took from it. Just you think you're getting something normal, and there's some other stuff going on in the background, like an app or a game or something you're downloading. Read that it was often used to steal passwords and data off computers.
Yeah.
That's what I took from it.
Yeah. Took away.
Kick them while you're down.
Kick them while you're down. Playing Elf Bowling and get kicked while you're not getting a good bowling score. Yeah. Em, what do you think?
Talking about this kind of reminded me about how, like, sometimes there have been things that I've gone to download and it'll be like, oh, do you want it to install the Bing search bar, and do you want it to install this, and do you want to install, and you have to either check or uncheck,
right?
Depending on the stuff, and like obviously that's pretty transparent. They just want to add a bunch of stuff to your computer. So when you're thinking about it in the terms of Trojans, they just don't tell you about this extra stuff that they're adding because obviously it's malicious and they don't want you to know about it because it's gonna.
We don't want you to know.
But that's one of those things to remember, is because, like, even though when you're installing things, there will be some transparency in what it's putting on your computer, which you should always read to know what extra things it may be installing. But especially if you don't know what you're installing at all, there's a very good chance that you can end up installing a Trojan because you're not going to know it's there.
One of the things that would never work with your example is nobody wants a Bing search bar.
True.
It's adware and bloatware and that kind of stuff. So the first one we talk about here, and this really shows the kind of what I'm seeing is that difference between delivery and the payload, so to speak. So one of the classic Trojans we hear about is something called Back Orifice, and it was kind of play on what Microsoft had Back Office. These guys created Back Orifice. So it's developed as a remote administration tool, or a RAT. And we're going to talk about RATs towards the end of the deck. But a remote administration tool. And he also wanted to show the vulnerabilities of Windows 98. So it came out in 1998. A lot of these are older. They call it a Trojan horse payload. But the remote if you wanted to use the remote administration features if you wanted to use the remote administrative features for legitimate uses, you could do that. I mean, you could install it as long as you know it was there and you're using on your network to do remote administration. It would work well because it did things like, you could log on to a computer remotely. You could, access files and, all the services of that computer. It was created by a guy named, his pen name was, or his handle was Serdistic, and Serdistic. It was from a group called Cult of the Dead Cow, CDC, which was pretty big. Really, people don't know how much damage this did because people don't know exactly where it went and how it got cleaned up. So that was a big, what they would consider a Trojan. Other one is Sub7. This was last maintained in 2004, so it stopped being maintained then. Spread through system commands, and it was again written to highlight a security flaw. Was developed by a guy named Mobman. Same kind of thing. A damage unknown for this one. Same thing. It's a remote administration tool, but if you can load it on somebody's computer without them knowing about it, then you can access their files, access their computer, access their microphone and camera and that kind of stuff. So most of these had really nice graphical interfaces that you could just click. I want to do this. I want to do that. You know, I want to. It was funny. Like Sub 7, you could eject the CD-ROM back in those days. You know, you could like just open their CD tray randomly from anywhere around the world if they're infected by it.
It's a little passive aggressive.
Yeah, just open it, shut it, open it. So that's kind of the first three. Any questions? What do you guys think about the first three? And thinking of those as a way to get malicious software onto a system.
I mean, at the time they all seemed pretty efficient. I mean, even now, like with the changing of the like subject or whatever, they still seem pretty efficient. I mean, if they're still around,
they're still efficient because you still have to take classes every year on don't open this attachment.
Most places.
So I mean, I don't think they find different ways to do it, but there's still the old scam out there. Like
like the Nigerian prince.
Nigerian prince trying to give that money away.
As long as people still fall for it, it's still going to be
We
there.
had one running at work recently where they said that he had used up too much internet time. To expand your internet usage, you had to click here and fill out this thing.
About this time of year, a lot of companies are going through their health care re-enrollment, and you'll see people sending out, "Hey, you know, check this for your new benefits," or "Click here," and it's gotta watch what you're getting. The kind of the wrapping has changed, but what they're trying to do is get you to click something, and that's really what a virus is trying to get you to do.
They also recently sent out a big red text. This is not a scam.
Yeah,
of course everybody was like, "Okay, yeah, sure." Deleted it, and then they had to resend it back out to get everybody's attention.
So I think we shift gears from how it gets there to what it is, what it does. One of the big things right now is crypto malware. What are your thoughts about crypto malware, Em?
I just remember the long conversation that we had about crypto stuff. Like how a lot of it's just like untraceable and stuff because of
that's crypto cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency.
A little bit different. This is crypto malware. Essentially,
Well,
they often use that.
That's when they encrypt stuff so that you can't access it, right?
Yeah, generally, and that's where we get a little back to Mako's statement. There's a lot of overlap in this. Now, crypto malware is used. There's two definitions for crypto malware. One of them you're right on. So, one of the definitions for crypto malware is they'll put a virus on your computer and use it to do things like Bitcoin mining. So they will not lock your computer up. They want it to keep running, and they want to harvest Bitcoin. The more generally accepted term is crypto malware and ransomware are kind of the same thing. Crypto malware will encrypt files or folders on your system, and then they will make you pay money to get it back, to get them unlocked. So on the slide it says it's often confused with crypto mining. Some places will talk about crypto malware as crypto mining malware, and some will talk about it as the ransomware, essentially. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, what I took from it was used to limit or block access to files or directories, and then I saw that it was often launched with other malware to gain access. So kind of exactly what you just went over, and used for monetary gain. So that was pretty much what I took from it.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
Same.
yeah.
Cool. So one of them we talked about, TeslaCrypt, came out in 2015, so a little more recent. So 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
This one I thought was funny because it specifically targeted video game files. So there was 185 different extensions that it targeted, and it was targeting things like maps, downloaded content, saved files, those kind of things. And then it, would send a message out, hey, if you want your game files back, which some gamers were
Oh yeah.
very, very critical about, because sometimes, sometimes game currency is real currency, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, you put as much time into getting it as you would like a job.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard people, even you build a character up, you can sell the character.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of
So-
people do that.
So it's currency, right? So
Yeah.
so we gets locked up, then
Because like plenty of people, especially with the newer age games with like the online stuff, they have those gift packages where it's like, oh, spend $10, $20, $50 and get these awesome skins and guns and stuff. So you actually are putting real money into these characters, and so to lose all that is like losing real money and all that time that you put into it.
Yeah.
And it's video games can be a big deal.
Like you were saying, like people will build up characters. So like a big example that comes to mind for me is World of Warcraft. Like people will get into the game like for a while and put it down, and so many expansions will come out. They won't know what to do with themselves when they get back into it. So they'll just be like, well, let me just look up, what this version's orc is. Oh, it's $7. It's like, so staying up to date with it and stuff could cause a lot of turmoil if someone's just locking you out of those 40 hours you just put into that dude.
Yeah.
So
what they do essentially, they would lock your files up. If you, again, depending on how it got here, it could be got through a virus, it could have got through even a Trojan, or it could have came in through a worm. Somehow it gets on your system. It encrypts your system, and it's just going after those 185 extensions that it's targeting. And then it locks them up. And then they would send you an email saying, or even a message through your own system saying, $500, normally in Bitcoin, because it's not traceable.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll unlock your files. And generally they did. And they claimed that between February and April, so about 3 months, they extorted about $76,500 from gamers, which, depending on, how you view gamers, that's either a ton of money or, not a lot to me. I'm like, that's pretty good amount of money.
A lot of money.
Pretty good for 3 months.
Pretty good for 3 months. I mean, yeah. As far as I could tell, nobody knows who they were that did it. By 2016, it became impossible to unlock the files without the bad guys' help. So you had to pay the money. There was no way to decrypt it using technology at the time. But I guess these guys got a change of heart, and later in the year they put the key out to decrypt people's files. So I guess
Do it yourself.
their GoFundMe campaign was for $76,500, and they hit their target and put the key out there.
And that one's different from the one we just went over is different from the actual ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying.
It's more or less.
It's a way of, ransomware is kind of a higher category. Some way, if they can lock you out of your account somehow,
And they're asking for a ransom.
yeah, they're asking for ransom. So
Right.
maybe they've exploited all your usernames and passwords, and you can't reset them. And they say, we'll give you all your usernames and passwords back. Essentially, anything that's going to get a ransom is ransomware.
Right. That's what I was saying. So this one was
This is a method of
okay.
So
just making sure.
through crypto malware, you can lock files up, and then they have to pay ransom.
Mhm.
We don't really talk about any other ways, but essentially any other ways. If I took your thumb drive and told had all your stuff on it, and for $20 I'll give it back, that's essentially, I guess, a manual form of ransomware.
Right. Fair enough. I mean, I guess it could also be like, you leave your thumb drive at like the library.
Yeah.
Someone finds it and your emails and stuff are on there. And they could do it like
called
that way too.
manual ransom.
Yeah.
Problem is, this is halfway around the world, right? Like,
I'm just saying like it could be on a smaller scale as well.
physical attacks. Yeah.
You just don't know who wants that quick buck and knows how to do that, I guess.
Quick $76,000.
Yeah.
The other one we'll talk about is NotPetya, and it's part of another. It's a kind of a answer to one called Petya, but we're not going to talk about that one. So we'll talk about NotPetya because it's not Petya. That's how it got its name. 2017, pretty much targeted your entire local hard drive system, locked everything up. ransom amount was around $300. Was obviously Bitcoin, so I think it was like $285, something like that. Assuming the damage is somewhere around $10 billion for this one.
With a B.
With a B. Don't know who created it, but they think it was someone in Russia. So I think it's Russian based on how it was written and stuff. NotPetya was different than ransomware, though. I mean, in a way. Because the authors never intended the data to be recoverable. Really, there was no way to recover the data. So when they attacked the systems, they really wanted to wipe out your data and get some money for it, too.
Right.
So it made $10 billion. You never got your data back. It's gone.
Yeah.
Kind of a form of what they call wiper malware. So it got in your system, wiped your stuff out. You paid the money to try to get it back and didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So at least with, TeslaCrypt, you get your files back for your $500. This one, you didn't get nothing. Didn't get anything back.
To go through all that and get nothing is kind of upsetting. Just kind of
Yeah, it's be rough. So then we get to ransomware, like you're talking about. So ransomware uses other forms of malware, like crypto malware for the attack. So it can use other things, other types of anything that's going to lock you out of your system.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to use, and then it's going to deny access to files and other resources, demand payment to regain the access. The payment's normally untraceable. And again, the resources may not be available even after you paid. So we saw two. TeslaCrypt, you did get your files back. NotPetya, you didn't get your files back. But both of them kind of followed that same pattern.
right.
So it's kind of...
Two sides of the same coin, but one's a little bit more unforgiving.
Yeah. It's kind of rough, though.
Yeah.
What do you think's next, Jim?
Rootkits.
Rootkits, yeah. Any idea what's going on with those?
Rootkits, it's one that gets into user profiles, right?
Really low in the operating system, so we're way below that. So if you think about, when you're looking at a hard drive of a system, it's got a thing called BIOS, basic input output system,
mm-hmm.
and it's got, you kind of layer software on top of it. So
right.
On top of that, you're going to put your operating system. On top of that, you're going to put stuff like Word and PowerPoint and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's normally underneath your operating system. So
Are rootkits the ones that start when you boot up your system?
Yeah. So when you start it up, it's gonna kick in before your operating system even starts.
Gotcha.
So if you have antivirus on your system, right? So if you think of the way it starts, the computer starts up, it is the BIOS, and then it starts your operating system, and then once the operating system's up and running, then it's going to start something like antivirus. So if you can put this rootkit in way below what they call, at the root level,
it's going to kick on.
The BIOS comes in, then the rootkit comes in, then your operating system starts, and then your rootkit's going to say, okay, when you go to start Symantec, just shut it down. When you go to start Norton, shut it down. Don't run antivirus.
Right.
But still display the logo like the antivirus is running. So it's underneath everything. So it's really hard to tell that it's there.
Right.
So it's installed low in the operating system. It might be below the operating system, or like Emily was saying, right, way in the very first part of the operating system running.
That's what I meant. The user profile gets
in
there. Yeah. I guess profile was the wrong word to use.
Could have been. Yeah. That's all right. That's why we're here, right?
Yeah.
So that's how it evades detection by security software. Persistent remote access to the system, because it's really hard to clean off, right? Especially if you think it's some of these are at the BIOS level. So the basic input output system of the computer, that first part that comes on when you see like the splash screen coming up. It's there. So you reformat or you reinstall software, reinstall your operating system, and it's still there, right? So it's sometimes really hard to get rid of. So runs in user mode or kernel mode, and that's probably what you're thinking with a mode, not user profile. Yeah. So user mode.
It's really rooted in there.
Yeah.
Software. It's a good way of remembering it.
One big thing I took away was exactly what you said. It overwrites as a legitimate process. So, it shows that Norton's running, and it shows that one of your systems are running correctly. But
really, because you see that logo pop up, and you're like, all right, everything's okay.
And if you check system settings or what's running on the system, you'll see it running there, and it's not really running there. So a couple of them. A lot of these, when you put it that low, there's a lot of reasons to do it. One of them is to set up like a spam botnet, right? Nicurus spam botnet is one of the things that you'll see on your slides. Came out in 2012. It infected 6 million hosts, so 6 million computers. Then it's linked to a bunch of other malicious software. Game Over Zeus, Crypto Wall, Crypto Locker, and other things that can do ransomware actions as well. The other one is ZeroAccess. Came out in 2011. At its height, it was doing about $100,000 worth of damage a day. I always say damage, cause. Sometimes damage can be resources taken away from systems, right? So that infected about 9 million hosts. It was used for Bitcoin mining and click fraud operation. And we talk about Bitcoin mining. We use the processing power of a computer when it's sitting there to mine Bitcoins, do the calculations of the system. Click fraud is a little bit different. So you can run a program that's going to click links for you. So if you're like an affiliate to someone where you get paid per click on a website or something like that,
The journalist.
yeah, you can have one of these bots go out and click all your website things and get money for it. So the figures for this one, revenue per year for Bitcoin mining was about 2.7 million, almost 2.8 million a year on Bitcoin, and a little bit over 33,000 for click fraud. So, infected Windows generally.
33 million, right?
Yeah, 33 million. What did I say? Did I say so?
1,000.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Make sure
33 million, a little bit over 33 million on click fraud. And then finally off to Keyloggers. In danger there?
Those
Danger.
are terrifying.
Keyloggers terrifying.
Used for good and bad. Employers use them just to make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But also used to get usernames, passwords, social security numbers, anything like that. I mean, it's tricky stuff there.
Yeah. The funny thing is, you're exactly right. When we look at the slides, and we're going to talk about a couple of these, a software and a hardware version, because they could be either. Software version, the one I pulled out was called Netbull. You can buy that today for $49. Available English only, so you need to.
Not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
Pull up that Google Translate if you don't speak English.
Yeah, if you don't speak English. Yeah, and definitely not sponsored by by us. Completely stealthy. Can evade detection by the major software as of the last couple of days. But it monitors keystrokes, captures usernames and passwords and browsers, as well as chat sessions.
Remembers everything.
Yeah, it remembers everything. It's kind of, but it's software. It's got to be installed on the system, so you have to get somehow to install it on the system. If you can't get on the system, but you just have physical access, you can get to the machine. Then you can put a hardware keylogger on there. And this one, again, not sponsored, but this AirDrive Forensics keylogger. And again, a lot of times these are used for legitimate purposes, like Jimmy said. That's how they sell them, right? This one is supposedly the smallest one available, 10 millimeters in length, really small. So you can plug it in the back of a computer and hopefully go without being detected. It's hardware. It's $29. It's got Wi-Fi download, so you don't even have to unplug it from the thing. You just connect to it and download it. 16 megabytes of storage. You can local download as well. It only does keystrokes, so you can't do things like screenshots and that kind of stuff like some of the other ones can. Equates to about 8,000 pages of text.
Wow.
Scared of keyloggers yet?
That's crazy.
Yeah, keyloggers, you got to worry about them because they, somebody could. Used to be they had to put them on, and then they had to take them off. Right? You had to sneak in, get it on someone's computer, and then they would store all the keystrokes,
Recover it later.
and then later you have to go out and get it off. And they were fairly big. You had to, go look at them. You could see it off the back. Now this little one, 10 millimeters, pretty small.
Yeah,
So
it's
if you have a desktop, you could probably sneak that in the back. They would look there and probably wouldn't even see it.
It's no bigger than this, yeah.
Yeah, it's probably smaller than that. Yeah, and then then you got your USB plugged into that.
Yeah.
It's kind of Yeah, because you plug a cable into it, right? You plug the keyboard into it,
Right.
And scary.
Keyloggers, because obviously they're logging all of your keystrokes, it becomes very easy for the people who are logging the keystrokes to, when they're in the hands of, you know, somebody who's trying to use it for malicious purposes, because then they potentially have all the information that they need. They could have your birth date, they could have, you know, social security code if you're typing that in, you know, all they need to see are those
email
keystrokes
address,
and, you know, potentially put 2 and 2 together, or just see, you know, what website you typed in, and they could be like, oh, well, here they clearly went to a banking website, so obviously this is their information. So that's why keyloggers, when you think about them, they're
pretty dangerous, yeah. So if you see, you know, chasebank.com or whatever, and then a weird something that looks like first name, last name, or first initial, last name, and then a weird, you know, my screaming cat is purple or something, like, oh wow, that.
Except at that point, you don't even need a screenshot if you could just, you know.
It's all text, yeah.
Well, maybe like our work, all our systems are Windows systems, so it's Control Delete to unlock the screen, and then I'm putting in the password, and so I figure out those 3 keys, and then where I'm going next is the password. You plug that in.
Yeah, like
wherever you need to. Your computer.
Like how many times do you really input your password in a day?
Yeah, try to see it over and over and over again, and yeah, like you're saying, like Mako was saying too, this little USB keyboard adapter. You know, if there was a 10 millimeter thing in front of that, and they were just both stuck in there, you probably wouldn't even think twice of it.
Especially on a tower, because it's all in the back.
It's all in the back.
So is that how they're more like is that how they get to more people? They attach them to things like USBs? Like the actual
they
component?
started doing keyloggers through programs too?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, software. You have software keyloggers and hardware keyloggers. Yeah. So depending on, you know, if you can't get someone, like maybe the system is so secure, like they've got all the patches in place and they've got the antivirus done, and
that's,
you know, then you try to sneak in and stick a physical one on.
But keyloggers can be accessed through just a computer,
Wi-Fi.
so you don't necessarily have to have a login or a plug-in in order to use it. You could just
install it. So
potentially have it accidentally installed on your computer. So that's why it's really important to always make sure that you run antivirus, your security checks, and everything,
and know what you're installing. Like again, but
always know what you're installing.
So if you go back to our Elf Bowling, you know, a Trojan delivery, we could say Elf Bowling, and then our malicious payload is a software keylogger.
Yeah.
And then when you install Elf Bowling, it's gonna say, hey, Elf Bowling wants permission to be installed, and you're gonna say, yeah, here's my. Even with new systems where you have to put your password in, it's gonna install, and then all of a sudden you're getting keylogged.
And again, keyloggers a lot of times are in place to make sure like employers see that you're doing what you're supposed to, but obviously
they can be used
as history has shown, even though some of these things were implemented in order to do something good or provide a service, they've obviously been turned into something malicious.
Right, as most things do over time.
Correct.
But if you think about, if you have kids growing up now, right, and you want to keep track of them, you might get some of the software to put on their computer to make sure that they're safe or not doing dangerous things.
Netflix Kids only or something, not getting into any. Yeah. It's crazy. Well, especially with bringing up Netflix and everything. There's so many apps and add-ons and plugins and stuff that people use in their day-to-day, not just on mobile, but on their computer. Because sometimes people don't even like Facebook, so they'll just get the Messenger and they'll download it right to their computer. It's their Messenger cannot be a Trojan, or you go and you get other kinds of things. So you just do add-ons onto your computer that you can skip out going through Chrome and then to the website. You can just go right to eBay or
apps. Yeah.
So it's just crazy because there's an abundance of applications and stuff that they could be used as. So you never know what.
Yeah, always know what always know what you're installing.
Yeah.
Get it from don't go out to the I want to get Adobe and I want to get Adobe and I don't want to pay for it, so I'm going to go get it from a site that says free Adobe.
Right.
Nothing's free. right?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever free. So when you get, Adobe Photoshop for free on some weird Russian site,
Yeah.
you're probably getting something else with Adobe. You're probably getting something underneath that. Then on to Emily's favorite, adware. Adware is awesome, right? Displays targeted ads, gathers user information. One of the big differentiators that I've seen is adware doesn't necessarily send information to third parties and spyware does, which I think that line's been blurred now. I think adware most of the time is going to send it off to someplace in the cloud. It's going to do all the number crunching and serve up those ads to you. Like, we joke, and maybe it's not that big a joke, but you just talk about something nowadays and it starts showing up in your
It's like,
your
you guys want to
feeds,
get lunch, and then Grubhub ad is on Facebook, on YouTube, and everywhere. It's like,
Wish all the time. I'll be scrolling through Facebook, and just there will be the Wish ad, and I'll scroll through, and it's like it's awfully suspicious.
Yeah.
very like particular things that like were just brought up or something. And at first it's like, oh yeah, it's a funny coincidence, but is there really such thing as a coincidence when everything's all kind of tied together nowadays?
Yeah, think about apps like Facebook. You get Facebook for free, but how much information about you does it capture?
Right.
800 pieces or something like that, or 8,000 pieces. I forget what the exact number is. It keeps track of everything you do, every place you go.
Mm-hmm.
Google's the same way. When you go to a Google search, all of a sudden don't be surprised when you start seeing ads for the thing you were searching for.
Right.
Or even similar things, or it can read if you search for obviously similar things, like what you might be interested in. So then it'll start recommending things you might be interested in, and it's just suspiciously close to what you actually like.
Yeah, and sometimes it won't even be something that you've looked up. It's your friends like, hey, I really like this T-shirt on say Redbubble, and they'll send you the link, and then all of a sudden Facebook's like all this Redbubble stuff. It's like, I wasn't even looking it up. So,
keeps track of all that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
One of the big ones. They're again, a lot of these things used for legitimate use. If you go to use Facebook, you've agreed to that. You've agreed to all that data harvesting. If you go to Google Chrome, you're, agreeing to all of that data being captured. Sometimes it's not necessarily, something you agreed to. Like the Fireball was created.
Fireball.
A couple years ago, 2017. Developed by Rafotech. It's a software company. And it was installed on more than 250 million computers, which was a browser hijacker.
Oh, wow.
And the browser it used was this thing called Trotux. And it just pretty much loads your browser with just ads.
Wow.
So even more than Google. It's just totally loaded up. Definitely not good. Peerage is another one. About the same time, 2017, another browser hijacker. Redirects all your web traffic to peerage.info, and then it adds advertisements to all your web pages. And you can't really ever get to the web page you want to because it's just like ads and ads and ads and ads. Excessive pop-ups.
It's an unwinnable labyrinth.
Exactly. And then if you do get to a website you want to get to, it's just like weird blocks of code that you can't even get through. And then it's going to tell you to subscribe to their service, and once you subscribe, you can't opt out. So it's terrible. Adware's crazy. Spyware is kind of the same. It can put targeted ads towards user, but its big thing is gathering user information. So it's a spy, yeah. So you may never get an ad at all from spyware. Right, you're just going to gather your information. So it's kind of half of adware. It's just gathering information. Sometimes some of them will give you ads, but then you kind of cross over in that line of adware, and it sends that information off to a third party. So a lot of times you think about the cloak and dagger spy, spy versus spy and stuff like that. This would be what they'd use. They try to get this onto your system, and it would collect all the information about you, and then send it off to some nefarious site, maybe online, or maybe off to the Google Cloud, and you get ads for Redbubble.
Right. Exactly.
Anything to add, Jimmy?
No, spyware and adware seem kind of similar to me. I mean, it was a little bit different, but it's kind of used for the same purpose, to gather information about you, not necessarily in a malicious way or anything like that, but for marketing purposes and things like that.
Yeah. So we talked about spyware. There's a couple different ones. I think I may have just highlighted one of them. FinFisher or FinSpy software, again, like Emily was saying, this stuff's installed, remotely. Supposedly designed for law enforcement use only. Problem is, a lot of countries have law enforcement, right? So a lot of repressive regimes use this thing to crack down. So different places around the world, they'd install this to try to find out who the people are that are, anti-government, and then crack down on those folks. Created by Lench IT Solutions PLC. So again, it gets on there, tracks all the information, sends it all back to whoever's controlling it. That could be these repressive regimes. And we get off to bots. Danger, Will Robinson. Bots.
There are numerous,
right? And that's what it is. It's a short slang for robot.
Yeah.
So it's a bot. Robbie the Robot, or robots from Lost in Space, right?
Where in the world is
that's Carmen Sandiego.
No, the Robot Jones. That's a cartoon.
You're making
up your own things.
No, I'm not. It's like where in the world is Robot Jones or something like that?
So a lot of times these can be, like a robot that can do repetitive tasks, and they can be for good or for bad, right? You connect a bunch of them together, they form botnets. You'll notice that when you have one on your system, if you've been infected on, you're part of a botnet, your computer will run slow. You'll hear your fan kick on a lot when you're doing nothing. Your computer just be sitting there in the corner. Maybe you're watching a movie or something, and all of a sudden you hear the fan go crazy. And sometimes you can't shut your computer down. You go to shut it down, and it says, "Oh, no, somebody else is using something, or some program's running, and you don't have anything running."
You hold the power button.
Just hold the power button, pull the plug, something like that. You probably are part of a bot network. Your big botnets. It's pretty big money to do this. When we're talking about Kraken,
Release the Kraken.
Kraken, fear the Kraken, right?
Release the Kraken.
Release the Kraken. Release the Kraken. That's what it is. Once it's released,
you fear
then
it.
you can fear the Kraken. Released 2008. That's when they released the Kraken back in 2008. It's what they call client server, which means there's a control node. So the server part of it is there's a controller out there in the world somewhere, and then all the bots are what they call clients. They all report in, get their instructions, and go do the thing. So Bitcoin mining, they go do that for however much. They do their thing, and then they report back in and get new instructions. It affected
me seeks.
Good.
As it kind of like a me seeks. They do one job and then they disappear and they go do another job.
They don't have to disappear though.
Yeah.
They do one job.
I'm going to touch on zombies, which was also a keyword in the Security Plus book. It's the botnets and zombies.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times you'll say the zombie is that client piece. The machine that has been infected becomes a zombie. That's a good point. I didn't. Yeah.
The reason why it's called a zombie is because it does not know, like the system itself doesn't know that it is infected by a botnet.
Yeah.
Much like a real zombie. I just wanted to touch on
that's
because
great.
it is a key point in the book.
Yeah, I didn't have that down, so that is a key point you brought up.
Or like it's basically a vocabulary word.
No,
I've been doing the vocabulary, and obviously, if you're watching this video, you want to plan on taking the Security Plus test, and maybe it won't be on there. But if it is, now you know.
Now you know. The zombies, the zombies are the piece that's infected,
Yeah.
And it's just running, it's mindlessly doing its thing.
Yeah, and just serving the botnet.
Yeah,
purpose.
the server overlord. So this thing, the Kraken, once it was released, it infected 50 of the Fortune 500 companies. So, all these, you think about these giant companies that have huge security staff, and they still, 10% of them were infected by this thing. And it wasn't terribly long ago, 12 years ago now.
Yeah.
And then once it got these 50 corporations plus a bunch of other people, it would send spam out. And spam is, the thing with spam, if you can send 1,000 things out and one person responds and gives you $100, then it's effective.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working, right? Especially if you're using someone else's resources. You're using IBM. I'm not saying IBM was affected, but say you're using a big company like IBM, using all their resources to send your spam out. So if 1,000 can get you $100, this thing was sending 500,000 spam messages out a day. So all the junk you're getting in your mail is probably coming from some infected system somewhere. So spam was going out like crazy.
Like all those wonderful singles in my area.
Yeah. Click here. Click here to be connected now.
Gotta love them singles.
There you go. The other one, Storm, I picked Storm because it's different. It's not client-server, it's peer-to-peer. So it has hosts that connect to each other, and there's no central command. So if one, with the commands client-server model, if the law enforcement folks can get to the server and shut it down, the whole botnet kind of dies. It goes because no one's controlling it anymore. With these peer-to-peer, you can shut down one peer and the thing keeps running because it's got this big peer-to-peer network. Storm had about 1 million infected systems, and it was a botnet for rent. So really, they weren't doing anything for themselves. They would say, bad guy mafia thug, one.
Mm-hmm.
You want to send out, malicious software to 10,000 people, you can rent my big botnet for 2 days and do your thing.
Have at it. Yeah.
Have at it. And you it was a service. They rent it. I got 1 million machines. You want me to use them for something? I'll rent it to you.
Yeah.
So used for a wide range of criminal activities. All kinds of stuff was being done with this thing. Crazy.
Sounds pretty insane.
Yeah. So anything to add?
No, I didn't know that about the Storm. That's crazy. Just use the same systems over and over again. Just
rent them out.
That's wild.
The U-Haul of malicious software.
Yeah. Don't even have to return it.
That's right.
Or, like physically return it.
Anything about them, Emily?
No, just like Jimmy had said, that's very interesting information that's going to help me remember.
Rent a botnet.
Yeah.
So are those still out there? Those types of...
They're still out there, those types. Yeah, that
bots?
particular one isn't.
Yeah.
I hope not. But when one goes away, that's why, there's money in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're Bitcoin mining or if you're clickbaiting or if you're renting your botnet out, as long as there's money in it, there's going to be bad guys doing it.
It's like a Hydra, cut one head off and 3 more will pop up in its place. It's hard to catch all of them because,
it's a little funny. It's a little funny when I started doing this, people weren't in it for the money. They were doing it for like gain, fame and stuff. So you had guys like Mafia Boy and guys like that. They wanted to get their name out. If you ever watched the movie Hackers, like Hack the Gibson, they were just out to try to do something, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't really to get money. It was to prove you could do it.
Right.
Whether it was right or wrong, that's up for debate. More than likely it was wrong, but now it's totally wrong. It's all about exploiting people, about getting money, about
extortion.
Yeah, extortion and using your resources you don't own to make money.
Someone else's hard-earned work, just
Yeah.
combed over for your own personal gain.
So we're getting close to the end here. RAT, remote access tool. We talked about RATs a little bit earlier when we talked about Trojan, because a lot of times the payload that you attach to a Trojan is a remote access tool. That's really the big prize you want to get. If you can get full access to someone's computer, then you're there. You can do whatever, once you get full access, then you can put crypto software on there, crypto mining, or you can put spam software on there. You control the system. You run it like someone that owns it. Remote access tools can be legitimate or they can be illegitimate, right? So for an admin, like a help desk admin, to log into your computer to fix it, you'll see them control it remotely. That's a remote access tool. You'll say, hey, in that case, they're going to say, hey, I'm going to send you something, and when I send it, you click on it, and I'm going to take control of your computer. You fully know that they're doing it. A lot of these malicious ones, they're going to put it in something where you don't know it's ever there.
Necessarily, Yeah.
Um,
Again, all they're trying to get you to do is click.
Yeah.
It's really
click, or sometimes I feel like a worm. You can put it with a worm that gets in there and installs itself, right? Or click, or install Elf Bowling.
Yeah.
Elf Bowling.
Damn,
it's
Elf
gonna make
Bowling.
it's gonna make a resurgent.
Yeah.
A lot of times these are, if you're gonna go through and try to get one of these on it, it's gonna be with a Trojan horse, because you're gonna want them to install it with full permissions and stuff like that, and it's gonna be kind of a big process to get it on. The one I think I may have had one in here. Black Hole Exploit Kit came out in 2010. By 2012, it was the most prevalent. By 2012, it was the most prevalent web threat. Developed to deliver malicious code. Created a guy named Hoodlum and Ponch. So Ponch was sentenced to 7 years in a Russian penal colony, which does not sound fun at all. When he got caught, I don't think, that sounds like breaking rocks up and probably gluing them back together to break them back up again. Hoodlum never got caught, but Ponch did.
Yeah.
Not sure how much damage he did.
He probably got worked for both of them.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything fun about a Russian prison, and let alone a Russian penal colony.
No.
Sounds like bad news to me. What do you think? Vacation?
Yeah, I don't think
Vacation of the Russian penal colony?
I'm steering clear.
No. Hopefully it made some money on that deal.
Is it the Gulag?
I think it's probably kind of like the whole colony, though.
Yeah.
Next one, talk about logic bombs. Logic bombs are generally revenge tools, So malicious code written into a system, often placed by a disgruntled insider, so usually somebody inside the system. Triggered on an event, time code, date. A lot of, when we look at some of these guys, a lot of times they really are kind of, sometimes they think they are better at what they do than they actually are, or they're worried about getting fired, or something like that.
They know they're going to quit, so they'll be like, I'm quitting on the 10th. This is going to go off on the 11th.
Yeah. They can destroy data or systems. They can be detected normally if you're going to do code review of your systems. A lot of times they can be detected. The problem is code review now is millions and millions of line of code, so you have to have some automated scanner to look for these kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So someone getting on the system and just puts a little piece of code in there, and every 15th of the month I have to do a sequence or push a button or something, and it kicks it off for another. But if I don't do that one time, it's the whole, I've got to get back to the evil lair and push the button.
Isn't that the plot of Lost?
Yeah, Lost. Yeah, where you do the thing to reset the timer. Right?
Yeah.
Same thing. That's been a logic bomb.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Logic bomb and Lost, right?
I never finished it, so as far as I'm concerned, it probably was.
So really, we're closer now to present day, right? So a lot of times these are insiders. They're people that have access to systems, like system admins, network admins, usually elevated levels of privilege. So not normal users. Usually they've got some privileges on the system. This one, David Tinley, 2019, Siemens Corporation contract employee, and he put software on that would malfunction after a certain amount of time, that would require him to come back and fix it for a fee, right? And it was there. It was there for 2 years. It stayed on the system for 2 years, and he just probably kept it going. And it was discovered when he was out of town. So he was on vacation, and somebody looked at the code and said, what is this thing here?
Yeah.
Why is this here? There's some rules, some best practices in security. One of them is job rotation, like have people rotate around jobs. Like, if you have someone that's an Exchange admin, a server admin on an Exchange server, and you have someone else that's a file admin, every once in a while have them switch roles so that, they can kind of look out for each other. And, one thing, you get a better staff, because if the one guy wins the lottery, then the other guy can actually, do both jobs for a little while. But you can also make sure people aren't doing this.
Yeah.
The other thing is,
in cahoots.
Yeah, in cahoots. Yeah, which is another thing. That could happen.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's like, oh no, I double checked it was fine, but really it was just adding that extra layer.
Yeah, they're both in on the deal.
Then they split the lottery.
Yeah, then they split the lottery. The other thing you do is force vacations. You force people to go on vacation.
Yeah,
You've got some people just never go on vacation. You got to go. Either they're really, really hard worker,
Mhm.
or they don't want anybody else to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, with security, a lot of people watching this are getting into security. You kind of have to look at things through a different perspective.
Right.
Most people look at the guy and go, "Oh, that's guy or girl, gender neutral."
They.
Look at that person and say, "That's just a hard worker. They really want to get ahead. They want to learn everything." But security people like, why does that person never take time off? Why are they always here? Why are they here late? Why are they,
No such thing as a coincidence.
Yeah. So maybe they are. Maybe they're trying to learn a lot and advance themselves. But you always have to look at them with that questionable eye. Like, why are they doing something? So this guy, somebody came in doing the right thing when this David guy was out of town, looked at his code and said, this is not right. Maybe he just stumbled upon it. Maybe he was actually reviewing code like he was supposed to. The other one is Roger Durano. 2006, system administrator for UBS, the banking company. Right. A logic bomb put on the company network to damage the network, right? He was actually sentenced to 8 years and 1 month in prison, and he had to pay $3.1 million restitution to UBS to the cost of cleaning up his mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bad stuff. So
yeah, not a good time.
Yeah. So what, your admins, whatever type of admins they are, administrators, as a security person, you really have to, that's kind of always the adversarial kind of role you get into is like, okay, you're always watching the admins because they're the ones with the most access to the system. They've got elevated privileges to servers and networks and data storage sites. You always are watching them.
Yeah, because they can do stuff that normal people in the like community or whatever can't.
Yeah, your normal user can't download the entire database or something like that. But a database admin can. So you're always, as a security person, you're always looking at those folks, and because you're always checking up after them and asking them questions, then they start to not, it's like this back and forth. Like, why are you always checking up on me? Why are you always?
Yeah.
Well, because I have to.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I have to do. This is why, whatever position you take on Edward Snowden, that's exactly what he did. He had elevated access to systems. Mm-hmm. He downloaded a bunch of stuff that he shouldn't have. And then, politics aside, he broke the rules of what he was hired to do.
Right.
So, and then last thing we talk about in this first half of this deck is backdoors. And this allows access to systems and it bypasses security features. A lot of times, a backdoor is almost kind of like a logic bomb in a way. Someone with elevated access is going to put something into a system. And it's going to allow them to get access later. So maybe it's a secondary password and username, a secondary way to log in.
That's one of the more common, hack-in tools, right? Or not hack-in tools, but it's one of the more common terms that you hear.
Yeah. You'll hear a lot.
Everybody is familiar with a back door.
Yeah, and that's what it is. Like you think about the front door and the back door of your house. Most people come through the front door. These folks are coming through the back door.
Hippies come around the back.
Hippies come around the back. So it's normally put in there. A lot of times, people when they're developing code or developing a system, they'll put backdoors in case they get locked out. Right? They're developing and it's still being built, and if they do something wrong and it kind of locks them out, they want a way to get back into it. Sometimes they just don't take that out, and it's accidental that it's there. Sometimes they're just malicious. They know I'm a contractor, I'm a consultant, or I'm a part-time employee, or I'm a term employee. I'm only going to be here for this project, but I still want to get into the system and see what these people are doing.
Yeah.
So I put another way to get in. Maybe I can access through remote access. So I put some kind of program in the system that's not supposed to be there, and I can access it later after my legitimate credentials are gone. I can still get in with the same level.
Right.
So it's definitely bad stuff.
There are also backdoors that are put in by the software people in order to provide support as well.
Yeah, legitimate. Yeah.
Yeah. So that if you're having trouble with your computer, and I think most places have gotten rid of their backdoors, but some of them were in place so that way they could easily help you figure out your problem by using your backdoor to assist you in the operating system.
Well, yeah. Troubleshooting, it certainly was one way. Another thing you think of a backdoor is if you're licensing equipment or you're licensing a piece of software or hardware, right? You don't you're paying for it by the month, or either a lease or you're renting it or you're purchasing it on terms. There could be a backdoor in a piece of hardware. If you don't make your payment, they turn the hardware off, right?
Right.
So now you have to make your payment, or else you have a big honking piece of equipment on the floor that doesn't do anything.
Right.
Right. So that's a little bit of a backdoor that could be there as well. So
Yeah.
it could be hardware, it could be software that it's worked into. We worry about them as, in info security, we worry about system admins, server admins, network admins building these things and so they can get back into the network. Maybe they get fired and they go home and just log in remotely to the same system that they're on, and now they do it maliciously.
Yeah. Just gotta be careful who knows that information or what they have access to.
Yeah.
Because again, you never know what's going through someone's mind, especially when security is a factor.
What if you think, if I know I'm getting fired, right? I have a backdoor in there, and it's a giant network of big, huge honking servers. Maybe as a malicious guy, when I'm out of work, I just put a bunch of Bitcoin miners on them, and then all of a sudden I don't worry about going back to work.
Yeah.
Right. It could be a bad thing. Obviously, wouldn't do that, but that's what we
Always
worry
a
about.
Possibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Worry
those
about
things
worry
to
about
be
people.
prepared for. It's like how do you deal with that, knowing it's a possibility? It's like, well, we would put all these factors in to double check that isn't going to be the case.
Yeah.
So
what I missed, that's the end of my slide deck. You guys went through when you went through the books. What I miss?
Get on my notes.
Zombies. Definitely miss zombies.
Had to be a clown.
The only
Drop
other
the ball on
thing
that one.
that I read that wasn't in there was the Easter egg stuff, because that was right
Yeah.
before the new section.
Tell us about Easter eggs.
Easter eggs are pretty interesting.
Obviously, we all know the term Easter eggs, whether it's, seeing Woody and Finding Nemo or
Any Marvel movie.
what have you, just, playing through Halo 4 a fourth time to see if you can find something from one of the previous games.
Yeah.
But obviously, that's not the way it started out. Easter eggs were basically something that slipped through quality control. It started off by
Programmers would put it in there.
yeah, like a programmer would just slip something in there and they wouldn't notice it until later.
See if QC would catch it or anything.
And then, like, obviously there have been, non-malicious versions, but there have also been, malicious versions of Easter eggs where they've slipped something in without you knowing or without the programmer knowing.
It goes undetected. Yeah.
And it goes undetected until it's already out. But that was just that was like the Easter egg segment was in the logic bomb segment.
Yeah.
So
hidden,
just like reading it all as a whole, I guess, is an Easter egg a logic bomb in a way?
In a way, yeah. Yeah, certainly. If you can, it's code written in there, and sometimes, like you said, again, like these things, almost all of them have two sides, a good side and a bad side. Like many game developers, people that make movies will put Easter eggs in there intentionally so people will play longer, watch it more,
Go see the next movie.
to watch things over and over. Like, classic, Stan Lee. There's, how often can you catch Stan Lee every time? He's technically an Easter egg.
Because and now it's become obviously more of
Right.
like a
Pop
play
culture
on
thing,
because it used to be like just something that slipped by code. Now it's obviously intentional because they have certain things in place so that most of these things don't go unnoticed.
Right.
Programmers put so much time into making a game, they might as well throw some extra stuff in there to make you play it longer. Because just because a game has 14 hours of gameplay doesn't mean you're going to be playing for 14 hours.
Yeah.
If you really dive in, you can probably find like 100 hours worth of stuff that
finding different
coders put in there.
And then sometimes the Easter egg, like you said, was a part of a logic bomb. You put an Easter egg in there, and you can find it later, and it's going to cause something bad to happen. A series of log onto the server legitimately as a non-privileged user, and you do certain things, and something bad happens. Definitely not like something in a game changing.
Yeah. So,
So-
but yeah, no.
That takes us into section 1. Like, the second half is how do we deal with this stuff? How do we, how do we identify it? How do we clean it up?
Now that we know the vocab, gotta
Vocab down. Yes. So, as always, if you want to see when new stuff's coming out, comment down below as well. Let us know what you want to hear.
Hit the bell.
Hit the bell. Hit the bell. We'll let you know when things are coming out. Know that this year in 2020 we'll be having different shows coming out, different topics we'll be covering. So this is just one of them. So subscribe, hit the bell,
do what you gotta do. To
comment
keep up to date.
comment below.
Let us know what you'd like to see
Moving
maybe,
forward.
or what you're looking forward to, or any questions that you may want answered in a later segment or something. Just comment below.
All right. Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Yes.
Yes.